Okay, and we're live. It's going to be another long day of trimming parts. Not doing too much. Simon Riddell of the Danger Boys is supposed to call in. That should be fun. And here we go. Just going to trim a little bit for a while until Simon is ready. There we go. Hey, Simon.
Hey,
We are live.
sweet. How's it going?
Good. Nice shiner you got there.
It's awesome, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just beautiful.
Yeah, so we
Uh,
were supposed to chat a little earlier today, and you were in the jungle looking for a bunker.
yeah. Unfortunately, I didn't find the bunker, but I'll be going back probably tomorrow, and yeah, I'll see if I can locate it. I did sort of find where I think it is, but yeah, it's a bit complicated, put it that way.
Uh-huh. Do you think it's just like all overgrown, or
Yeah, it's really badly overgrown and covered in gauze and just bracken and just horrible Scottish plants, basically. So,
Mhm.
um, so yeah, it's. I reckon I'll find it. And then when I found that one, I've got to go off the cliffs again because I think I've spotted another one from some old World War II aerial photographs that were taken. So yeah, it's all go.
That's pretty wild. What else
Yeah,
have you been up
indeed.
to?
I've not really been up to a lot other than shooting so much wet plate, really.
Uh-huh.
So trying to sort of kick the mental collodion off, which is kind
Mhm.
of a project um, that encompasses like mental health and raising awareness about it all and just sort of going through the wet plate process with people in kind of a way that can be seen to be a bit healing, if that makes any sense, because it's
Sure.
so immersive. You can take somebody out of whatever they might be going through, um, and spend sort of an afternoon or a morning with them, and listen to them, shoot them, not literally, but
Mhm.
um, and then they go away with a plate to look back on with a bit of positivity. Um,
Mhm.
so so that's what I'm really trying to sort of focus my efforts on at the moment, and obviously that's super difficult to really achieve in lockdown.
Yeah.
Um,
Seems like a tough time for a portrait session, although it looks like you're pretty set up behind you.
yeah, I mean I'm doing all right. So um, currently, well, the kids just broke up for holidays for Christmas today,
Mhm.
but on Boxing Day, we're going into tier 4 lockdown. So currently we're at tier 1, and there's very sort of low amount of cases. But for some reason, the Highlands is going into tier 4 on Boxing Day, which is fucking awesome.
A lot of time to figure some stuff out by yourself. Maybe not good for
Yeah,
portraits.
it's just, oh god, it's doing my head in like massively. Um, I was just kind of thinking, will I believe that 2021 is going to start off with, no COVID or minimal cases, and we'll all be kind of getting back to normal? And now it's like, no, fuck yous, we're tier 4,
Yeah.
lockdown.
Yeah, that sounds not super fun.
No.
The when I saw Mental Collodion, going around on Facebook and Instagram, it made me remember that like back in high school when I was a more sad emo teen, the dark room was like a real nice way to get my mind off of things for like many hours and think about something that I was interested in that caused me no pain. It was
Yeah.
very pleasant.
Yeah. I think it is definitely the whole process really does lend itself to yeah, just taking yourself out of whatever you're going through, whatever is racing through your mind, 100 million miles an hour, and just doing something sort of positive. It doesn't really matter if you fuck it up
Hmm.
or whatever. It's just like a nice kind of learning experience. That you can go in there like you're saying for hours, and it feels like minutes. But the thing with collodion is it's so bloody expensive to shoot, and so time consuming in terms of prep, and your chemicals and safety thing as well. There's a lot going on with it, which is it's why I like it. And obviously it's the end result is just out of this world. But
Hmm.
um with me suffering such a loss in all of my paid work recently, since lockdown, um, I've had to sort of apply for funding, and so we'll see how that works. But the idea is to get a van, to convert it, and then travel to where people are, hopefully,
Oh,
and
whoa.
do it, yeah, and do a session, and see how COVID's doing, and if that's if that's an accessible route, then obviously we can shoot outdoors, and keep social distanced, and all the rest of it. But
Hmm.
um,
So you're thinking
and
of
what
like a big old van with a generator and lights and all that sort of craziness.
yeah, so I think what I'm looking at is like a Ford Transit van sort of
Uh huh.
size. I don't know if you guys would be familiar with
Yeah,
that,
of
but
course we have them. I have a Ford
yeah.
E150, which is the predecessor.
Okay, so that kind of sort of size, I guess, long wheelbase as well.
Hmm.
Because the plan is to just sleep in it, and
Uh huh.
travel on the week that I don't have Isaac. So he comes to me literally, 50% of the time. I
Uh
change
huh.
over on a Friday. So the idea would be to get funded, convert a van, and just go for it.
Hey, so do you know my friend Giles Clement, who's a sort of famous, I would argue, the best wet plate photographer of all time? He has a Transit Connect, I believe. It's a
Yeah.
smaller van, and he sort of travels around taking people's portraits. He's, to my knowledge, unfunded, like artistically, but people pay him a ton of money to make, family portraits and things like that. And then he also gets to do famous people's portraits, and he's very good. But he travels with like a packed van, to the ceiling with lights and all sorts of things.
Yeah, absolutely. It is. I mean, it's. I was looking at this funding application, and like I'm already bloody 10,000 words into the application,
That's
and I
maybe
haven't
too
even
many,
got,
Simon.
dude. Oh god, like, and this is me sticking to like the minimum, like the maximum. I'm going in the middle of it all.
Uh huh.
And my good friend Paul Whitehouse is helping me, with the sort of literary side of it. Yeah, so I don't know, but if I could get funded, then I would definitely be buying an actual camera that's made. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you can see the shit behind me. I've like had to mackle stuff together, with different backs and different fronts, and um, I'm using half an Intrepid, um, and you know a space telescope, leg for the monorail bit. I've just had to like, and I'm still using the. So after I broke the ground glass up in Skye, the Isle of Skye in the winter. I guess that must be 2 years ago, and then you had sent over the acrylic stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I
It's good,
broke
but it's
one of
not as
the.
bright.
Yeah, exactly, but it's lasted loads longer than the
Yeah,
glass.
yeah, it's better than no glass.
Yeah, no glass or a shard of glass that was kind of in the middle. Oh
Yeah,
God.
I've done
Um,
that.
yeah, it's just like horrific. But so I'd be glad to actually either build myself a bespoke camera
Uh-huh.
that I want and with all the functions, or I'd be looking at buying something really robust from back in the day, but like an
Well,
810
maybe
camera.
I can make you a really good deal on a new. What size are you shooting
Well, so I
before we?
need the capability to be shooting 810 for really quality sort of pieces, but
Mm-hmm.
I think the main format that I'd shoot for mental collodion is probably 5.7.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think
Um,
we can probably work something out in a month or two.
that would be amazing. Yeah, because I just don't have the equipment here to do it.
Uh-huh.
And
Unfortunately, I don't make vans, which tend to be way more expensive than cameras or the
yeah, I don't
strobes
know
you need.
what you're playing at. You should be making me a bandana camera and
Yeah,
just doing a deal, 2 for 1, job done.
true.
But yeah, dude. I mean, that would be good. I mean, it needs to. So here's the lens. I don't know if you can see that.
Um,
Um,
oh dang, that's a big boy.
yeah. So that's kind of like I have shot with it. So it's dated 1876. This is, and it's a Swift and Son from London. So it's designed for 18 by 16.
Inches or centimeters?
Uh, that'll be inches, won't it?
Wow. Um, so I mean, here's the question: 18 by 16. Like, why are you not doing at least 11 by 14, if not 16 by 20? I mean,
Yeah,
you're going all the way to build a van. Like 8 by 10 seems kind of small at that point.
yeah.
Maybe I shouldn't egg you on in this way, but
No,
seems
no,
to
no.
me.
You're definitely right. And so I think I would have if I could have what I wanted, I would have a very sturdy, robust camera and bellows, etc. For just for that lens.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'd have like a separate sort of, I guess, more or less a point and shoot 8 by 10 with a reducing back to
Mm-hmm.
5.7.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I just would like the option of having, two separate things and just,
Uh-huh.
you know, stop sort of mackling things together, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, I mean, I am one, a camera designer, two, a user of muckled, cobbled together junk cameras of the last 20 years. Um, hey, do you use a lot of movements in your portraits, or just sort of straight, and you need
Yeah.
something stiff enough to hold the lens and the plate holders?
So, in terms of the movements, yes, basically shit tons of movement,
Mm-hmm.
and that's another reason that I would be probably needing to separate that big lens out in terms of having its own camera because um, it's just so heavy.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think that the kind of art that I'm producing now, I really need to have as many movements as possible because the whole kind of, I guess, experience of shooting people that are struggling with stuff is that you want the ability to bring that kind of emotion out. And I think just doing like a standard shot, um, even with just one side lit, or sort of artistic lighting or dramatic lighting, it just doesn't really do it for me.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, movements front and back,
Mm-hmm.
full movements is definitely what I need. So I
Uh-huh.
don't know what you would build it out of. Would you go metal or?
Well, no, I mean, unless you want to pay 30 grand in water jet cutting fees. But I
Mm,
think so. I just got this giant laser cutter, which I've been cutting a lot of things on, and I've been thinking about building some sort of folding studio cameras that get pretty big. I have a lens for a 20 by 24. I'm kind of wrapped in this mongoose production where for the next 30 days, I don't get to design anything. I just get to trim parts. You can come back in a week and hang out on my soldering stream. Uh, but after
yeah,
that, I think what I want to do is use the laser to make laser cut sort of wood and 3D printed and some, like metal hardware uh, folding field cameras that are very big. They won't be light, but they'll be stiff. Is the trade off constantly.
yeah. So that sounds amazing. I mean, so I've built a couple of rear standards and some plate holders,
Mm-hmm.
just out of plywood, but without sort of having a good desk to work on, and having everything sort of set up. It's just a complete pain in the ass, and I'm
Yes.
really sort of impatient as well. So all the shit that I've made just looks absolutely like dog shit, but it works,
Uh huh.
and that's all that really counts. So, um, but I did find some aluminium channeling today, that I think could be used for, yeah, like definitely sort of some framework anyway.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah.
and then you've got like to build the plate holder, which I don't know. I mean, there's a lot to that as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Indeed. Um,
Um,
so I don't know that I'm going to get into building plate holders, which maybe will limit your size to, whatever 20th century camera or chroma is making right now, or
mm.
whatever you can find. But um, yeah, I think they go to 8 by 10. I bet they would make 11 by 14s
Yeah.
custom
Um,
jobs.
there's one sort of project that I'm doing just now, which so I going back to the bunker. I found some broken blast glass, and it must be 8 mil thick at least.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's got this really nice sort of yellow tint to it. So it's all broken, but like the broken bit is, well, it's probably about a 5.7, something like that.
Uh huh.
So I'm quite interested in building a plate holder that would accommodate different thicknesses of glass.
Ah.
Um, just and different kind of orientations really, so that somehow I can fit an image onto this broken sort of reclaimed glass from, I guess, back in World War sort of one and two sort of time.
Uh huh.
So yeah, I mean, I'd be quite happy to sort of sort the plate holder outside of
Mm-hmm.
things, but it's really, I think it would have to be maybe like a monorail seems like the easiest option. Um,
Yeah.
I don't
So
know what you think.
I think monorails are the easiest to build. However, I mean, I want to build like a bed camera, kind of based on the Deerdorf. That's what I like using the most, which
Yeah.
would have like full front movements and limited back movements, or vice
Hmm.
versa if it's very big, right? So you can get to them. But You don't need front and rear swing. You can, just achieve that all with front swing and then turning the camera on the tripod. And
Yeah.
I think like the the fewer movements I can use to get to full movements is probably a lighter and sturdier camera at size. Um,
Hmm.
uh, yeah, I think I have a friend who, like, these 3D printers behind me have aluminum extrusions in them that are standard for CNC machines, and they're pretty inexpensive. My buddy
Yeah.
Dennis was designing something for the machine shop to, be like an 8x10, mostly made out of those things, and then some CNC'd um, brackets in between them. But the deal was like, it wound up being, a 30, 40 pound 8x10 that, to reproduce would cost, I don't know, a couple grand. Just didn't it didn't work out super well as a rail camera. I guess maybe it would work a little bit better, but I don't know. My friend Giles built a really amazing 16x20 camera that's all like water jet. I think it's stainless steel and aluminum, and it's a
Yeah.
monorail that's like 6 feet long. He uses it all the time. It's great. Uh,
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to be able to shoot, that kind of size. It'd just be amazing.
right. I think, I mean, I can get you big, but like to get a camera like Giles is, I think you'd have to pay Giles 20 or 30 grand to make one. They're
Yeah,
not cheap. Uh, Maybe more expensive than a van. I don't know. I don't even know if he's sold any of them besides his own, but took
yeah.
a lot of work to build that thing. Not
Hmm.
my work, his work, but I admired it greatly.
Yeah, yeah. It's awesome. Yeah, I'd love to be in a position to be able to just sort of to do that. But there's a guy, Dimitri. I can't remember his surname, but he's. I don't know if I'm allowed to say. Actually, I think I am. Anyway, he was working on a project recently. Fuck, I better not say. I don't know if I can say. But yeah, it involves plate and then like a big camera and
Hmm.
a big plate.
Ooh.
But yeah, just seeing people make stuff is like really inspiring. But I think to do it kind of professionally would be the way forward.
Uh huh.
To be sort of able to just rock up, just assemble your equipment and have it all looking the part and being really functional and not
Hmm.
have to sort of worry that you're slipping, that a movement slipping while you're
Sure.
doing something. Just all that sort of side of things. Super stressful.
Yeah. Yeah. When your plates are like $100 a piece, wiggly
Yeah.
cameras become really expensive.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think I really like the idea of building like an enlarger as well, and yeah, just going into the dark room and creating, prints from the plates.
Hmm.
So shooting clear glass is obviously, quite involved anyway.
Yes.
So I think, I mean, it's all doable. I built a really good light source for 810 negs,
Uh huh.
film negs, and that works a treat. But yeah, there's something special about being able to sort of shoot a big plate and then reproduce stuff after it.
Yeah.
Whether that would be part of the mental collodion project, probably not, because it's
Hard to put in a van.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then, it's so I think for the mental collodion side of things, it's probably just going to be, a sturdy camera, shoot 5x7, and job done.
Hmm.
And then sort of be able to scan the images in, well, scan the plates in,
Hmm.
you know, make sure the plate is in a state that it can be archived, and then the sort of theory would be, I guess, end of 2021 to see where we're at, I was hoping to shoot like maybe 50 plates in a year,
Mm-hmm.
which is totally achievable because I've shot bloody, I don't know, tons recently.
Uh-huh.
And, like the concept is working on Instagram. Like a few people that have been completely unknown to me have got in touch and said,
Cool.
"This is awesome. I want a portrait session," and they've,
That's a really good
you know,
indicator of things, right?
yeah, exactly. And obviously, I haven't charged them for anything, and
Uh-huh.
they've gone away with plates, and the process has been really good, and the feedback's been amazing. And actually, one guy that came up, he was going through some shit, and his daughter and him had sort of very intermittent, sort of sketchy comms for the last sort of 5 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing dodgy or anything like that, but just they'd sort of fallen out of touch and stuff. But his daughter had seen his plate portrait on Instagram, and she got back in touch with him, and you
Wow.
know it was like pretty heartening, really, to sort of be able to hear his story, and then kind of empathize and capture sort of 5 seconds of his life on plate, and then it's had a really positive outcome, which has been amazing. But I was absolutely exhausted after shooting.
Mm-hmm.
uh, so there's that side to it as well. You're sort of soaking up a lot of energy from people, and I don't know. But again, it's just all kind of wet plate lends itself to all of that stuff.
Uh-huh. Man. If you had your druthers, right? Like if it all works out, where would you drive the van to?
Everywhere.
Everywhere. I mean, in 1 week segments, can you get to like Romania? Probably could.
Yeah, I guess. Like, I mean, I'm really flexible with sort of timings and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, I would have absolutely no problem. So if it was in a school holiday, like the 6 weeks holiday that they sort of get, the summer holidays,
Mm-hmm.
I'd have no issue taking Isaac along with me. I mean, what an adventure
Yeah.
we would
Yeah.
have. So you could cover some ground, some amount of ground in that time.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, just I guess in a week. Um, Crikey! I mean, last year I think it was. When I did have a camper van, and I'd helped Keith Moss. I don't know if you're familiar with Keith. He's a
Mm-hmm. Of course.
film shoot. Yeah.
He's got a
So
van for that sort of
yeah,
thing.
that's it. Dapper Dan, we called it. So I
Yeah. Right.
converted that with him, and we we took my camper van from the Highlands of Scotland all the way down to his place in Yorkshire, and then we went to London. I remember driving past the palace and all the rest of it in this fucking massive
Wow.
camper van. And the brake had seized and all this sort of shit, and we had to go and get it repaired. It was overheating, throwing buckets of water on the brakes every day. But yeah, I mean, then so we went to London, then we went to Brighton, which is like proper down south, and then back up again, and that was all within a week. So that was top to bottom of the UK, really.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah. So like it's doable. And obviously in the funding application, I've had to sort of describe how I'm going to sort of logistically roll this out, and you know, and it's, so through talking to another plate photographer, Dave Shrimpton.
I know, Dave.
Um, there you go. Myself and Paul Whitehouse, we were talking, just the three of us, and we thought, right, well, if there are other plate photographers located through the world, then why don't we capitalize on that? And obviously, instead of traveling, 1,000, 2,000, whatever miles, for me to do it, why don't we look at a sort of a collaboration and combine forces really? And if we've got the facility to bring people from other countries into the project, then that would just be amazing. And obviously, Dave said he'd be quite interested in sort of talking further about it, but I don't see any reason that we couldn't do that.
Mm-hmm. Man, the scope keeps expanding as a Danger Boys project normally does.
Yeah, yeah, dude. Yes, I've not heard from Dave for a couple of days. Well, a couple of weeks actually.
I got a
But
message from him yesterday. Somehow I could not group the call, so we were talking in separate threads. I originally wanted to have both of you guys on to hang out. I'm sure we will get both of you guys together at some point, but he said he was just getting back to France today. So he's kind of just been traveling, I think.
yeah, yeah, a busy time for him, and yeah. So gee whiz. And I was so gutted because obviously we had planned this thing with you, and we had also planned for me to go over to France with Isaac, for a sort of an extended sort of holiday, and I would help renovate his new place, and yeah, just nothing's happened, man. It's just been
Yeah,
so bad.
this whole year was kind of a wash in terms of most of the things that I had planned to do, but I don't know.
Yeah,
I think we've all kind of found some other things to do. I think mental collodion is probably a winner, and maybe you would not have come to that had we not all been locked down for a year.
true, true. Yeah, I guess this sort of that project was all born of my own kind of shit that I was going through. Well, still am going through, but oh man, but this will give you a laugh. I don't know if it'll give you a laugh. Does it make me laugh? Yeah, but
You got
I don't know.
a gut check.
Yeah, so obviously like it's been 4 years since Dad passed, and I had to do all the sort of CPR and all the rest of that sort of stuff. Um, so he passed away in the church. He was preaching, you know.
Yeah, I read the
So he
emulsive
passed
article.
away. Yeah. So anyway, long story short, my mum rocks up at the house a couple of months ago. No, a couple of weeks ago, and she drops Isaac off and all the rest of it, and it's all good. And then she goes, "Looks like I've got some good news. I'm getting a dog for Christmas." And I'm like, "Well, okay, that's cliche, but that's cool." And in the same sentence, she said, "And I'm getting married."
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, dude.
Oh.
And I was like, okay, cool. I'm really happy for you. I don't know anything about who this person is or what the crack is. So I was like, so tell me the details. And she goes, so again, this is a very long story short. Um, she's she's marrying the new vicar of the church, and I said, so where are you getting married? And she said, well, we're going to get married in the church. And I
Mm-hmm.
said, but I haven't actually been to that church since I buried Dad, and literally the week before that, I was, um, doing advanced life support on him. So I'm not sure how I'm really gonna be with that location. I said, "Can you get married elsewhere?" And she goes, "No."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Fuck."
Yeah, it's I don't know. Uh kind of feel like you probably just gotta let her do do her thing and try and be supportive. I don't know what other options you have.
I,
Uh
I don't have any other options
yeah.
because I've got to do all the photographs as well. So A, I can't get pissed. B, I can't spin out.
Uh
So basically, I'm just gonna have to deal with it.
just one
But
of those suck it up gigs. Yeah.
suck it up, and then take about a week to recover, probably.
Yeah. Uh my parents have been divorced for, most of my life. And my
Mhm.
mom has a boyfriend now that she's had for a long time. And I remember I first met him. He came to New York while we were all there. I think maybe cleaning out my mom's apartment or something when she moved. And I had taken all of the seats out of my station wagon so that I could fit more cameras in it. And I only had a two-seater. And so I went to pick him up at the airport, but we had never met. And I picked him up. Mind you, I'm like 29 at this time. I'm a full grown adult, and I pick him up at the airport, and he gets into my car, and the first thing I ever said to him was, "Are you my new dad?" Oh man, he was so freaked out. It was great. But we're buds now. He's real nice to my mom.
Oh, dude. Oh, I like it. I like that a lot. That's hilarious. Yeah, man. So that's happening in March. So I've got all that to look forward to.
Hmm.
But who knows? Maybe by then I'll be shooting plate and charging money for it and
Hmm.
being in a better place sort of financially. And yeah, that would be good, But
Yeah, so I think the Giles model was, I don't know too much about his business, but I think he would be willing to do professional gigs for like magazines or whatever for basically anything if he wanted to do them, and then he would just charge a lot of money for people's like family portraits, and that
yeah,
way like the sort of portrait work, I think, financed a lot of really amazing work that he's done. I remember I went to go visit him actually a couple of times when I was traveling around the country buying cameras. He was also traveling around the country taking pictures, and we ran into each other in California and Arizona and Ohio over the years. And I
yeah,
remember once he was just like, "Oh, I'm taking like the same photo over and over and over. Like this is terrible." But he was doing well, like anything you do, right? Even if you love it, which he did and does. I don't want to speak too much for him, but it gets real monotonous. But I think he came up with like a really good balance and was able to make some really like well-known work in the middle of just sort of family Sears portraiture on wet plate.
yeah. That'd be good. I'm just trying to sort of recall if I have seen his stuff. I don't know. I'm fairly sort of connected with Wet Plate online, but I don't know. Maybe you could put us in touch.
Yeah, maybe. Let's see. It's my thing. Boop, 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 boop. Hmm. I think let's do a screen share here.
Eh,
I think let's do a screen share here. Oh, you gotta turn off that stream
Yeah,
wherever you follow me. Okay,
that's
okay.
that's quite funny. It's just popped up on my Facebook. I was like, oh,
Oops.
it's me.
Ah, background music. No, stop. Okay, let's see.
Oh, Alex Purcell was on. That's maybe why it's pinged up on my phone. He says, hey, Alex.
Hey, Alex. Um, oops. No, I don't want to open Skype. I usually have this thing on 2 or 3 monitors, but I'm over here on my work desk. So, okay. Oh yeah. So like these are all wet plate portraits that he did. Let me shrink this window down a little. So it
Yeah.
fits.
Wow.
Um,
Those are big plates.
Big
That's
plates, right?
that's
They're 16 by 20 tin types and amber types mostly. I mean, he shoots a lot of film and advertising work. I think he's really, really good. I have contended many times that he's the best wet plate photographer of all time. I'm really into his work, but
yeah.
let's see if we can find some more wet plates. Like I don't know, it's pretty bananas. I actually have.
Oh, so I have seen that last one there that you scrolled No, the other one with the guy with his arms out. I've definitely seen that shot.
This one.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's a
yeah.
few. There's a few that are like pretty famous. I think this one of Elvis Costello is pretty known. The one of Nick Offerman
Hmm.
is known. He did Chris
Hmm.
Christopherson and Fiona Apple, and like I don't know. He shot some really famous people. Questlove, some people I don't know, but
Yeah,
yeah.
awesome.
Anyway, he does very good work. Maybe I can get him to come hang out one day. He's a little bit of a recluse.
Yeah, looks really cool. I think what I really sort of need is, I don't know, like the backing, or just like the foot in the door of somebody very well known who will be able to sort of punt what I'm doing out to sort of the masses.
I mean,
Um,
so I think that is always helpful, right? Like I'm always pod tarting around, but like I think the deal is if you can get 5 customers, right? Like to pay a reasonable price for a 16 by 20 that like or even an 8 by 10 or a tintype, right? Like that is that's a good day of work, right? Um,
yeah,
maybe a
definitely.
good
Yeah,
2 days worth of work. And
yeah,
so like it's kind of local, right? So like, okay, Camerodactyl is getting known now, but like my audience is spread worldwide. I could advertise all I want. Probably the only person on your end of Scotland that follows me is you. Um, but like just sort of like on a local level, I think what Giles did was he like drove around the country and he would get like a small business that had foot traffic to host him for, a weekend or a couple of days, and then that business would advertise like that they could come in and get portraits. And I don't know what the split between the business was, or if they just let him use the
yeah,
space so that people would come shop after their portraits or whatever. But I think small businesses are pretty open to it, right? Like, I mean, not right now because they're all closed, but when they're open to ideas and collaborations, anything that might bring some more cash in. And so, like, okay, I think the classic one I saw Giles in a hair salon or a tattoo parlor. I can't remember. It was set up as a photo studio in Columbus, Ohio. I don't even remember why I was in Columbus, but he was doing like a weekend tour there, shooting people's portraits, and I hung out while he did a couple. Um, and I think like the business does all of the advertising for him to start, and then you know, uh, dude's got like 60,000 followers now, right? And is known by like the photography community, uh, maybe even more than that. I haven't checked in a while, but like really where that all came from was not like internet advertising to start. It was just like he's probably taken 55,000 portraits over the last 10 years, just traveling around, and all those people start following him. um,
yeah.
Kind of like a touring band.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think the sort of concept of mental collodion is, it's definitely got legs.
Yep.
um, but it's kind of exposure, that I need now.
It seems
Um,
like it's got legs, but it also needs like something maybe a little less artistic to be done in conjunction to pay for it.
yeah, exactly right. So the sort of periphery to that was definitely going to be shooting just sort of standard portraits and
Uh-huh.
charging for them.
Cool.
And I sort of got dialed into something around the sort of £200 mark for an 8 by 10.
Uh-huh.
Um, but then, without having the van in place, I'm sort of limited
Right. Aren't there
to
only
what I
like
can do.
16 whole people that live in your town? Like,
Well, there's a lot of farmers and wealthy kind of people from that point of view.
uh-huh.
Um, but other than that, there's not a lot going on, really, to be honest.
Yeah.
Which is really restricting. I mean, Lucinda, um, I had sort of done 2 sessions with her recently, so she had travelled about I guess like maybe 70 miles to come to the studio, and we spent the whole day shooting. I think I did like 6 plates in a day,
Uh,
which was exhausting.
yes. Very tiring. A lot of work.
Yeah. But having said that, we didn't every exposure was good and usable.
Uh huh.
Um, so I'm not pissing about doing, what would you call it? Test plates
Uh
and
huh.
exposure.
Yeah, I
You know,
probably would have shot 6 test plates and nothing I liked. It's
yeah,
generally how I
I,
work.
yeah. So I've kind of got myself dialed in now with having made loads of mistakes in the first month of lockdown
Mm-hmm.
and getting extremely pissed off with myself. Now I've kind of got that dialed in. I'm sort of maybe about 4 seconds exposure with continuous light, but also then um, pop in a flash with all those flashes that you see behind me. Um, so yeah, I guess technically it's working out around between 4 and 5 seconds, and we're done, and everything is good. So technically, I know what I'm doing, but it's just like, right, where's the next person, and how do we navigate through COVID and get this session done, which is then sort of talking into, okay, well, maybe we have to shoot outdoors, which means rigging electrics and extension cables and weather, and you're in the Highlands of Scotland and it's pissing rain and high winds, and it's like, what am I doing? Um, so yeah, I don't know. I mean, so the other thing I was kind of considering was, can you shoot a plate of somebody electronically? So my mate Shane, and he's just sort of collaborated with somebody else, and they just did. I think it was like a 5 minute exposure or something like that. It was long anyway,
Like
but
over Google Meets or Skype.
yeah, that
Yeah.
kind of process. And Shane had his sort of image projected onto a projector screen, I believe, and
Uh-huh.
the other artist was stood next to him. So I was thinking, like, could we do something like that where I host an online sort of session, and take the sitter through everything,
Uh-huh.
but just do it kind of digitally, virtually,
Okay,
but
so
still there.
I did see that when it came out, and I think it's the type of thing, and like, I don't want to shit on your parade and be negative Nancy, and you shouldn't listen to me anyway because I'm not an amazing businessman or photographer. But my feeling on it was, it is awesome the first time somebody does that, but now that you know it can be done, like, there's no
Yeah,
reason to do it again. Although it might be a good fundraiser in the time of COVID for sure.
yeah. I think only trying to sort of think out of the box in terms of COVID, and
Hmm.
how do I get the project going, you um, and how do I make it accessible? Because what got me thinking about that side of stuff was, the application process for funding, and they said, well, how will you make this process accessible, during COVID? And I was like, oh, fuck, don't know.
Hang on, I'm texting some wet plate photographers I know to see if they have, on the off chance, a few minutes to come talk to about us about the business of wet plates.
That
I
would be
know
awesome. I'll
two.
stay
Yeah.
on for a bit. Um, yeah, dude, they'll probably be horrified at the fact that I some actual glass with a belt sander to make some ground glass in
I've
5 minutes.
done that in a pinch. Never for anything that I've sold to anybody, but for myself, yeah, as a test, it works. Not
It's
great, but it's okay.
not great, but it's it's what I'm using behind me, so that's kind of it. But yeah, so I've been on to Intrepid as well, and to sort of see if they're five if well they're reducing back for an 810 to 5.7 fits my camera, but it doesn't. So I'm pretty much gonna have to make everything from scratch
Mhm.
now. So yeah, looking at my mate's effort, Paul Whitehouse, he's built. Is what did he build? I think it's an 810 camera, but it's really hefty and looks just brutal to sort of lug anywhere. But absolute credit to him. He built his bellows, and they're slightly stiff and all the rest of it. But the images he's getting is just perfect.
Mhm.
Um, you know, so it just shows with a little bit of woodworking skills, you can do it.
Yeah, I
Which
think
is probably
the difference between a nice camera and a bad camera, like so long as they don't leak light, is almost zero. It's just like how easy is it to,
yeah.
like in terms of the picture, it's zero. It's like how many pictures can you get in a day, and uh, how much stress is it going to cause you to try and keep everything straight and aligned?
Yeah, that's the thing. And do you know, I did really well kind of like last month. There was all this kit going on Facebook marketplace or whatever, and
Uh huh.
I had just sort of seen it, and there was that. Well, I don't know if you can see sort of clearly, but I got this huge backdrop.
Yeah,
Um,
looks super
so
pro.
it's like really pro shit, and I was like, oh fucking hell, how much is this gonna be?
Hmm.
And we got pretty much everything around about 600 quid for absolutely everything. Massive
Oh.
backdrop, like all the flashes, continuous lights. Other than the Falcon Eyes, I had those previously.
Uh huh.
But yeah, so I did really well there, and I didn't even know if I was going to be able to shoot plate with those flashes until I spoke to Dave Shrimpton. And he said, Dave, I've just taken a gamble on all this stuff.
Hmm.
And I said, have you got any experience in shooting with these kind of lights? And can I do it,
Of
with
course.
collodion? And he goes, yeah, brilliant. And I
Yeah.
was like, thank
How,
fuck.
how many watt seconds are those strobes?
So I don't even know. Um, Where would I? Where would I? They're fucking bright. That's as
Well,
much as I know.
okay, but what are how are they marked? Let's see.
So, okay. I don't know. They didn't have any sort of manuals or anything like that. So, I don't know how we. Now I'm showing myself up for being a complete knob and not knowing
No,
anything.
you're figuring it out.
So I don't know. They're QS 400 Godox.
I see.
They
They're
also,
400 watt seconds.
yeah,
Little
that
dim
would.
for wet plate, but also maybe you have a brighter lens. It's fine.
Yeah. So the lens I'm shooting is it's only f5.6 though, whereas that brass lens is f4. So I'm
Hmm.
really sort of taken to use that brighter lens, but I just don't know how soft it's going to be,
Hmm.
But
Maybe
yeah, so
pleasantly so.
all of those flashes sort of going off at once on the sort of fourth second is it's a little bit dazzling for people, but it's not as bad as really really bright sort of strobes I've seen people using.
Yeah, so like for reversal process, which I'm dealing with like ISO 1, I
Yeah,
have maybe three 2400 watt second speedotrons and one 4800 watt second speedotron. So like I'm using always at least 10,000 watt seconds of power when I'm doing it, which is a little absurd, but
Yeah, that's
yeah, it's
bright.
something. But I'm also probably shooting at f11 to f22 somewhere in there. And, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah, exactly. I think from speaking to other guys, it's pretty much yeah. I think the most closed down I've shot is f11, and I think maybe that was about 12 seconds, but that was continuous, like when I first started. But yeah, opened up seems to be. I mean, I really sort of have always shot as wide open as possible anyway, just because that's how I shoot. I like it.
mm-hmm.
Um,
You're the wet plate bokeh bros.
yeah, yeah, dude. So it's. I tell you, it's been a big learning curve, but I stuck with it really, and I think it's all paid off now in terms of making the mistakes and
Aha. Okay, my buddy Eric says he will come talk to us. I'm going to tell you the story of Eric in a second, but he is a giant wet plate photographer and
okay.
commercial in Wisconsin. Hang on, let me email him the link, and then I think he will be a much better resource to talk to about this than me because
Cool.
this is what he does. Um, let's see if I can send him an email. Oops, nope. I need hold music. Dun, da, 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 da.
It's fine. It's giving me a chance to drink some wine. Funnily enough, this wine bottle. I don't know if you can see this.
Dude, man, it's
Um,
10 o'clock in the morning.
yeah, no, but not over here. It's not.
Yeah, I know.
But this is kind of like all Victorian era um, kind of sort of packaging, and I wondered even about sort of emailing those kind of companies to see right
Hmm.
anything sort of Victorian in the UK. Um,
Interesting. Yeah,
yeah,
you
and
know what I bet would be a great thing now that you're thinking, getting me to think about it is if you had a brewery or a brew pub or a distillery, right? They make scotch in Scotland, I assume, and they have any sort of bar or place where people congregate, right? Buy drinks and hang out. Like, I think they would promote you as a guy that would show up one day and shoot people's portraits, right? And then that would just mean for them, another attraction. You'd be like a band, right? Except you'd
yeah,
pay $25 or $100 or whatever to get a tintype or whatever that is, and you know, uh, then you would attract more people to their business. Hello, Eric. You're on mute.
Uh,
Oh, now you're not on mute. Can you hear me?
yeah, I hear you.
Great. Hey,
how's
Eric.
it going,
Thanks for
Aaron?
coming on. We're
Hey,
live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. Eric, this is my friend Simon. Simon, Eric Bailey's.
hey, Simon.
Good to meet you.
Going on, Ethan?
So I'm gonna give you the quick backstory, and then I would like to introduce you guys because Simon is over there in Scotland talking about uh, buying a van to schlep his wet plate gear all around the country, and I was like, I know some guys who know a little bit more about this than me. I've just been live streaming for the last week while trimming parts to the scanner because I have a lot of rote dumb stuff to do, and so while I live stream, people have been coming to chat me, and I've gotten to talk to people all over the world about camera stuff, which is pretty ridiculous. Anyway, I met Eric in Madison, Wisconsin, at the Capitol. I was walking around with my girlfriend, and I saw a dude with an like a pop-up ice fishing tent, and was it 20 by 24 Chamonix or Shenhao, some giant camera. I was like, "Hey, Laura, I gotta go talk to this guy," and yeah, at the time, Eric is a professional photographer and was kind of getting into wet plates, and I was very I don't know what you're doing with this, buddy. I don't know where this is going. And then I moved away, and I came back for a visit. I don't know, a year or two later, and Eric had like a gallery show up, and I saw his new wet plate studio, and like it was kind of night and day within maybe a year or two from like you making test pictures when we first met to like being an extremely competent wet plate photographer. Um, yeah. Anyway, Simon has been shooting a lot of wet plate and is interested in I don't know, schlepping it around the country, meeting people, taking more. But yeah, I thought you guys should talk. Eric, what have you been up to in COVID?
I've been doing a lot of carbon printing, so
Uh-huh.
I still do print types occasionally, but once you learn how to make a negative, you can really opens up
Uh-huh.
a slew of creative possibilities and presentations, and it really ups the range, the total range that you can create.
Uh-huh.
Because instead of dealing with a black substrate, you're
You have one
printing.
more step to adjust.
Yeah, you got they're a lot more difficult, but once you kind of if you have the idea of making a positive down, you have to be relatively competent. Negatives where they become more difficult is that the historian would always call them your niceties. It's on how you handle the chemical, how you handle your materials, how you clean your materials, how you your technique from your pour of your collodion to the pour of your developer. All those things essentially kind of equate to how you're going to be able to make a negative look, as opposed with a positive. It's a lot more free to those sort of errors and um, misgivings. It's a lot less forgiving. Put it
So
that way.
so I've
But
been following along and really digging like all of the carbon prints that you've been making of like small mechanical objects or complex mechanical objects. That is obviously right up my alley. I'm really into them. Are
sure.
those all from glass plate negatives?
Yep, those are all collodion glass negatives.
Uh-huh.
That's the kind of or the beauty of making a negative with collodion is it actually holds the largest tonal range of any negative. So, which makes it unique, and that is because of its physicality. The negative holds all the visual information as opposed to um, having to dodge or burn as you get into film or digital negatives, using multiple negatives to achieve the same effect. Collodion can hold all the visual information, and a lot of these printing out processes or POP processes, they were designed with the collodion negative in mind. That's when they were invented, and so it really gives an advantage to the end look. Of course, it being blue sensitive has an effect, but I just really, have fallen in love with the transition from making positives to negatives, because the output of what you get in the end is, yes, a lot more work, but you can make multiples, you can make series, you can
They're
do different.
extremely controlled, right? Like
It,
I
you,
don't even know what half of the machines you post are, and sometimes I ask, but like the tonal ranges you get out of just like light on steel is really pretty amazing.
yeah, I mean, it's just another tool. But originally, I felt, I'm a commercial photographer by trade, and making 19th century imagery for artwork kind of began as a passion. And I kind of found really quickly that people, they're really interested in this sort of thing. I mean, everyone from young kids to old seniors, you get approached from when shooting with large format. But they learn about the technique and the history, and that really, for me, became an access point, to kind of have them learn a little bit more about me. And that is really an invaluable tool. Um, So I found that it enhanced even my commercial work because it brought forth more people. I was finding more people to get in front of, to have that FaceTime, to tell that story. And
Mhm.
whether you're making a tintype or I'm making a digital, commercial image, it really comes down to the relationship part and, how you do business, how you talk to people. So I kind of look at, making art with 19th century photographic processes as a mode of communication, as a transport, and they're extremely fun to make.
Mhm.
Anyone who kind of, but you know, we're all based on, what's the most valuable you can do with your time.
Mhm.
And I've really found not only a joy for making these things, but I find that it's also an extremely effective tool of engagement.
Mhm. Mhm. I think that's very smart. Have you been doing commercial work over the last 9 months in Madison, or pretty?
There hasn't been much going on right now.
Yeah.
I had a few good things like maybe the first 3 or 4 months, and now it's like really died.
Uh-huh.
Um, they're just, I think, just people are in for the most part, kind of a hold position for a lot of the work that I have been doing was, generally centered around events. And there's probably a good 2 dozen corporate or commercial clients, including the university, that, that are all, they're just not doing anything
Yep.
just because, they can't gather. And,
I have two good
and
friends who are event photographers in New York, and like it just smashed their entire business. But one
yeah,
got into video editing, the other's been shooting food. Like, it's kind of a interesting time for people to like come up with, I don't know, personal projects or whatever.
Yeah, fortunately, I was, you had met me when I was in Winnebago Studios, and that
Mhm.
had since been torn down.
Mhm.
And that's really kind of been a blessing because if I had to have that rent there, I would be crushed.
Uh huh.
So,
Didn't you like build a home like daylight studio? I think.
yeah, I turned my garage into a 19th century natural light studio, added on a dark room, and heated it. So it's really nice to have that. I do miss having Winnebago studios just because
It's very
there,
nice.
it had a public gallery, it had, a dozen and a half other artists to work with, and I
Yeah, I
missed
remember walking over there and like just walking into your studio, I would see 5 or 6 different weird, crazy things going on. That was really fun. It was much
yeah,
nicer than my studio where I worked alone.
that was really a point of inspiration and engagement with other artists. Not that I still have, lots of friends in town that are artists, but it's so,
They're not like
it's
accidentally in your space 25 times a day, though.
exactly.
Interesting. So, um, I guess backstory on Simon. How do we know each other, Simon? You are Simon is one half of the Danger Boys who um, spent like I don't know how many days in these old oil tanks in Scotland from World War II, making some giant large format prints before they could leave the tanks, and possibly, well, it's a long thing. There's a whole movie on it. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
But he's been shooting a lot of wet plate of late, and was thinking about like I don't know, Simon. You explain.
Okay, cool. So I came across Ethan actually originally. I was sat on a beach, I
Right.
think in Mallorca, and I was just sort of making a transition from shooting medium format film and moving into large format, and I saw camera dactyl, and immediately I just sort of had to get straight on the phone. So after that, we sort of struck a relationship up, and Ethan sort of looked after me quite generously with cameras and camera parts, and acrylic ground glass for 810 stuff. So that's kind of how we started to sort of strike this relationship up. But yeah, I guess. so I've sort of made that transition from shooting film and now to shooting collodion. And I'm finding it, incredibly immersive and pretty much the only sort of process that I really want to engage with. And obviously you'll know that it's very technical and engaging from that point of view. So it's kind of got everything going for it that I need in my life. But at the start of sort of lockdown in the UK. So I guess we're talking like maybe March, April time. I had just started to sort of, buy chemicals and, adjust my cameras to be able to accommodate me shooting plate. So I guess in the first month or so, I'd made all my mistakes with learning collodion, and figuring out what I wanted to do with it. And I don't know. I guess at that time I was going through some pretty hard stuff. Sort of mentally anyway. And I had the opportunity, I guess that's a positive way of putting it, to be by myself. And I did a sort of series of self-portraits. And essentially that, that's just on the gear behind me, minus all of the strobe lighting. It was just, at that point, I had just two continuous lights. So I was exploring sort of my own sort of journey with PTSD and mental health and stuff like that, but also trying to sort of document that in wet plate. So it was something that I needed at that point to immerse myself in. And to occupy myself with something positive, even though some of the shots that you might see would maybe be okay, maybe representing maybe sort of negative attitudes and things. But anyway, so it was a journey, and I shot a ton of plates, and learned a lot. And now I kind of think I've got everything dialed in, settings wise in my head, and I know what I'm doing and what I want to create. So what I want to do now is to hopefully secure some funding to launch this project that I'm calling Mental Collodion. So I guess the sort of concept is to be able to take a
But
portrait.
I'm going to back you up a minute because Eric wasn't here at the beginning of the conversation. Is that
Yeah,
you've already been shooting a bunch of portraits
yeah,
and like using like exactly out of Eric's playbook, right? Which is that you've been using like this wacky process that people don't know about, but it's like inherently a curiosity to sort of engage people, which kind of an interesting similarity that I found. But anyway, you were saying about making it into a traveling business.
yeah. So I guess the concept is I'm applying for funding through an organisation in Scotland called Creative Scotland. So as long as you can sort of tick all the boxes and prove that you can a be creative, remain creative, spread creativity in the arts, then you're looking good for funding. I saying to Ethan, I'm about 10,000 words into the application already, and I'm just scratching the surface with all the questions. But so the sort of the ethos behind the whole thing would be to sort of capture or document sort of up to 10 seconds of somebody's life who has a story to tell. Maybe not just sort of mental health, something to do with overcoming something extraordinary, or helping people in sort of an extraordinary way. Just really to sort of bring light to sort of positivity in this really shit time that we're going through. And to make collodion kind of accessible in this rather inaccessible sort of time, and then sort of to create a body of work that would maybe encompass, say, 50, 60 plates in a year, minimum, hopefully, and then obviously scan them, archive them and display them, and just sort of have this benchmark of, okay, this is where we were in this I guess what it's going to be to sort of 2 year sort of period. But really the main focus is to sort of, inspire positivity from, this kind of time that we're in, if that makes any sense at all.
Okay, so why I thought I would get Eric on the phone is like I am, I'm not either a good artist or a good businessman, but like when as an American, when I hear like public funding for the arts, I laugh and laugh. I'm sure Eric does too, right? And like I thought maybe we could or you guys could talk about the sort of business of like what do you do? So, like Eric, I know you're not necessarily like a portrait photographer commercially, right? You shoot like all sorts of stuff, but that has not been at least what I've seen most of. And I don't know. Do you do commercial wet plate work at all, or it's mostly like your passion project that is more or less marketing for the digital stuff that you do?
I mean, I've done them at events before, tintypes. It's just, it's kind of like one of those things where, the price point is, I honestly will charge more for a digital photograph than what I can get someone to pay for a tintype generally. That being said, I have been able to get private sittings that are, in the $500 to $700 range.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's an event, and it's kind of like that, kind of like a novelty, right?
Yeah, it's like a photo booth, which
It's
is
like
immediately where my mind goes because I'm thinking like production, 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 but not necessarily art.
exactly, and you get one shot, and you got to nail it, and for that, to me, it's unless it's in a very specific place, you're opening yourself up to a large liability. Oftentimes they cram you in with everyone else. There's not ample space, not ample ventilation. In I've seen
You
people
sound
do
pretty
it,
down
and
on it.
I just kind of cringe.
Uh-huh.
But is it popular? Sure. Am I glad people are doing it? Yes. I mean, I think the more people that have exposure to it, I think the better. But I don't want to be the photographer who's schlepping all that gear and only demanding of 45 or a 65 or a $75 for for a 4x5, or maybe 125 for an 8x10. That to me just seems like you're you're hardly making anything. You're only limited on how many you can do an hour. I suppose some people can make
4 in an hour.
yeah, some people can get it down where you could possibly be making 10 or 12 an hour, possibly, maybe if you have an assistant that knows what they're doing. But unless they're using KCN to fix, how you're not washing them properly enough, you're not fixing them, and that, to me, taking KCN into a place where there's a lot of people is just really asking for
trouble.
Something really bad to happen. And I'm just that's just not something I'd be willing to do in most cases. I have done it and was like, I'm not going to do that again. So I mean, I think they can be profitable. To go and to a 4-hour event and strike 40 portraits or 35 portraits at $50 to $75 a piece. That's a decent chunk of change. I would prefer to have 1 to 4 people in my studio, or set up half an hour sittings, and charge a little bit more. You get a little more hands-on time. You get a little more time to maybe strike two portraits. They get the better of the two. Or oftentimes when I do private sittings, or it's a $500 sitting fee, and you get everything. But I'm shooting to strike that one image that they're going to frame, that I'm going to frame for them, or put in a case, or that's going to be presentable, and I just give and varnish the others
Mm-hmm.
for their own record. But I want the one image that is handed than the other, and that usually takes at least one. You can almost always improve an image after the first try.
You can. Mine tend to
Right.
deprove.
Right. But it's just, I think it just comes down to personal preference. How do you want to work? How do you want to communicate? I find it very difficult to get one shot and try to extrude who that person is, not just what they look like. But it is a powerful tool to sit down in front of an 8x10 or a 4x5. I feel it does transform people. I think it captures their imagination. It captures their attention greater. So that gets back to that. It's a very powerful tool of engagement. And how you choose to use it. I like to use it to get to know the person. I like to gain that person's their story, what their story is. If they're just sitting down in front of me and snapping and then they're leaving, I don't get any of that. I think that kind of wastes the experience. And from my experience, that kind of is how it feels. So it's harder to get those $500 or $700 sittings, but who do you want to market to? Do you want to market to a $45 market, or do you want to market to a $400 or a $500 or a $2,000 market?
Yeah, I think for the project, for the mental collodion thing, which is obviously, if I can get funding for that, and granted that it's going to be very difficult to do that, but taking the money side of it out, then collodion is absolutely perfect for that project. And that body of work. But I think if I was to sort of answer honestly in terms of if I wanted to do this as a business, which is yes, what I want to do, it's definitely not cramming people in and shooting substandard plates.
Nobody likes my McDonald's of photography idea.
No, yeah, it's just, that would just be horrific. And I completely appreciate what you're saying, Eric, about it's more or less like you have this sort of teamwork with whoever is sitting with you.
Yeah.
Because it's like, it's incredibly difficult to sit for collodion, and sort of up to 10 seconds or more sometimes, and how do you bring out what that person's story is, and how do you put that onto glass or whatever you're shooting on. I couldn't imagine really shooting more than sort of two people in a day. I was thinking a morning session and an afternoon session, and by that time I'd be pretty knackered anyway, I would think, because in terms of who I've shot previously, you're engaging with them and you're learning about their story, their experience, their life, and then you're creating a shot of that person. But equally, they're sat there, and you're having to sort of, a lot of the time I'll be saying sort of, right, I'm gonna take a deep breath in now, release, and then we're going to go for the shot, and we'll practice it. And this all takes time, and it's a really nice experience.
Yeah, you have to find the right type of people. I mean, it's not
Yeah.
for not for everyone, but I feel like it genuinely communicates a sense of wonder.
Yeah.
That if you can share your passion and you can share your energy with it, like that's what draws them to want to have to witness your experience. And
Yeah.
it gives them an opportunity, I think, offering them an opportunity to act as if they are part of your creation by allowing them to, tell their story. It opens up a pathway of their creative mind, and they want to share that with other people, and that is something that is not easy to do
Yeah.
digitally, or with other forms and mediums. It happens, it certainly is possible, but it feels like collodion or shooting with an antique process where there is a lot of variability. I mean, there is a lot of things that can happen that we want to try to control, but they oftentimes you can um, have those mistakes or have those aha moments that are senses of wonder that come through in the image, and that's how they are. And
Yeah.
sometimes they're really great and sometimes they're not, but like that, learning that sense of failure and learning that sense of wonder and sharing that, being able to um, give your sitter that chance to see that failure is okay and that you're willing to take a risk. I feel like it gives them something that they will take with them.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I really, that's what I love most about sharing with collodion. I mean, I think anyone who thinks that getting into collodion to make any money is like, you're really kind of missing the point in a lot of ways. Can you make money? Sure, but like, I mean, I feel like I think price your work as what you feel it's worth to you.
Yeah.
Because it's an important body of work. I think it's worthwhile your time, and I think it's a creative and historical process, and it's just a fun way to create a communication, a form of communication. That's what art is, right? That's
Yeah.
hands down the most valuable thing for any artist, whatever their medium is the communication with other people.
I gotta
It's
disagree. I create art entirely for tax scams. It's all about the write-off, baby.
hey, if I buy a $5,000 piece from you and you buy a $5,000 piece from me, then we can donate that $5,000 piece and get a tax write-off, but we can't donate our own work, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So,
It's really heartening to hear you speak, because yeah, I mean, it's I guess like the last 6 months of really learning this. Well, no, not even that. Learning this process has been proper emotional. And then kind of you get the really downside where you maybe don't get what you want, but then you have to keep trying, and then you get it, and then you're absolutely elated, and you've learned that lesson, and then you apply that learning, and then you get to this point where you're producing plates of a good standard. And I think what I'm keen to really explore further is sort of multiple exposure, which I've had really good success in.
Okay, okay. Eric, can you Can you screen share some of your work? Like the one with the half lit head and the skull is something that's stuck in my mind for the last, I don't know, 7 years since I've seen it in person. Fucking unbelievable. Like, okay, so Eric was kind of at where you are at now in the process of like, uh,
Yeah.
mastering wet plates when I left Wisconsin. And I was like,
Okay.
all right, this is cool. He's figured it out, but like, was not. I think it's probably fair to say, like, you know, you had not figured out the best use of that process yet, like to make the art with it. Like, you're shooting sort of buildings, and maybe you had shot, I don't know, not very many plates, but like, I show up 2 years later, and well, he'll show up. They're
how do
great.
I, how do I screen share on this platform?
Down at the bottom, there's a thing that says "Present Now," and you can share a tab or a window.
Okay.
I'm gonna pin you, Simon. You're gonna be a disembodied voice, I think, for
Okay,
this
no
segment.
worries. Do it. I'm just looking for it.
If you go present now, then you can click on whichever tab or screen or full whatever. I mean, yeah, I think you have some of the best multiple exposure. I guess are they tintypes or ambrotypes? Whatever they are, they're amazing.
They're tintypes. Google Chrome will not be able to record the content of the screen until it is quit. Oh, hold on a second. I'm like having problems figuring this out.
Sorry, I sprung this on you. Like, you know, we probably haven't talked outside of Facebook in years, but Simon and I were having this conversation. I was like, I know a guy who knows a little bit more about this than me.
Okay, there we go.
That's looking good.
Okay, now let's see.
Whoa.
Yeah, this is the one.
So that's a 20 by 24 inch tintype.
Okay, I'm just what?
Yeah, that's with a real human skull.
It just adds everything to it. Oh my gosh. Yeah, okay. Awesome. Oh man.
Yeah, you've been doing a lot of still lifes of late. I think the last time I was in Madison, you were on this portraiture kick, which was really great. And then when the still lifes of plants, I was like, yeah, these are good, whatever. And then you got to still lifes of machines, and I was real into them again.
Yeah, right. So this is one of my first big shows that I had. And I think from Edward College.
Yeah, that's marvelous. Well, absolutely amazing. So were you using just sort of continuous light there, Eric, or did you use flash as well, strobe?
I started off using all strobes. So all of those, with a few exceptions, would be natural light. And then I've pretty much put away the strobes the last probably 3 or 4 years, and I've shot all natural light because I have a natural light studio.
Yeah, you just need an 1898 photo studio in your own backyard. Then who needs strobes?
Yeah.
So these are salt prints from glass negatives, 8x10s that were from the centennial of the Madison Capitol for 100 years.
Okay.
These are just kind of some other shows. So this is an albumin print, 20 by 24 inch tintype, 20 by 24 inch tintype, salt print. Kind of a mix of landscapes and still lifes.
Yeah, it's really striking. Everything. It's interesting that you've gone back to sort of continuous light. What's your sort of experience been in terms of shooting multiple exposure with continuous light? I've not done a lot of that really recently myself, because I sort of was managed to sort of get settings, I guess, dialed in for a sort of a triple exposure recently, that was, I guess, continuous lights plus strobe lights. So I think each exposure was about 2.5 seconds, with a shot of a flash at the end of that, and that came out pretty good. But I've not really done a lot of multiple exposure with just sort of continuous light.
I mean, I'm using strobes for these double exposures, so it's about getting your ratio proper, turning, and then you know, you have a background light on one of them and then you turn the background light off,
Yeah, there's a lot going on. Yeah.
reposition the image.
Eric, do you ever like use a piece of acetate to mark out where things go on the ground glass to line it up, or you're just like amazingly good?
I just draw right on it.
See.
Just draw right on it with a felt tip pen. That helps a lot. That'll help you line it up.
Yeah.
Trying to think. There's a couple other ones here that might interest you. I have done some double exposures in the natural light studio that are negatives.
Okay.
And see if I can find some of those here. I don't think I've gotten those on my.
Hey, for the people watching at home, Eric, where can people find you on the internet? There's a lot of places.
Yeah, photochemist on Facebook, or photochemist_WI on Instagram, or my website is photochemist.net. Instagram is probably my most active place. Here's a couple more double exposures. That was for a tarot card.
I do not think I saw that one. That's great.
Yeah, that's a tarot card, the King of Wands, I think it is. So it was like a group show that everyone got a card, that you produced that went into a deck that, was sold at the end. It was pretty cool.
Cool.
Fun concept. Here's another pretty cool one.
Oh yeah, I've seen these.
Oh yeah, fantastic.
So that's a photogram, and then loaded into the camera and then exposed. I had this really cool ram's head for a while. I was making here's a double exposure using natural light.
Okay, right. I've just brought up your Instagram, so I'm sort of having a quick look as well.
Yeah,
a little bit easier to see on the phone. Yeah.
This is a 20 by 24 inch tintype, double exposed with natural light.
Yeah. And I guess what it is incredible about the sort of tonal range as well that we were speaking about earlier, and I'm really interested in doing the prints from the glass negatives. I think that'll be the sort of next thing that I really get immersed in.
Yeah, Simon was talking about building big enlargers, and I said I did not think you could fit that in the van.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to enlarge that, I mean, that's the thing with collodion. I mean, I guess you can make silver gelatin, you can enlarge, but I mean, any of the antique pieces have to be
contacted.
Printed out. Yeah, they have to be in contact. They're printing out their POP processes, so you can't project a negative to make a salt or an albumin, or
yeah.
I suppose you probably could. I don't know if you can with carbon or not. Carbon's a lot more sensitive. But I don't. Maybe there's someone out there doing that, but not that I'm aware of. Collodion chloride. This is collodion chloride. Is really awesome and relatively easy process.
I remember this Space Alien very well.
Yeah, and so if you can make a collodion, basically you take collodion and you put another, you mix it with another strontium chloride, I think it is, and maybe one other chemical, and then you pour it on Barta paper or Bardia paper, and then you print that. So this outline is from pouring too little and forming a shape and then printing it. Is a pretty fun way to make something creative. Yeah, some of the other work, I would say, Facebook or Instagram by far has the most content. I think I just made a
Yeah.
website one time for the collegiate shows that or for the bigger shows that I've done. But
hey, Eric, can I ask you a sort of unrelated question about photography in Madison and Wisconsin these days? Like, where do you see it, sort of like the market changing, or do you see it going back to regular old idyllic Madison? Or, I've watched, I probably have 25 friends who are professional photographers, and like most of them have changed up their business. I don't know, and I don't think they know if it's like going to sort of stay changed up. I'm sure like my friend who started doing a lot more video editing will start, incorporating that, but I don't think he will stop doing events when that is a thing again. But
yeah, I think it's a little hard to tell right now. I mean, certainly the trend is to go more video. People are always demanding video. I just have not gone into it. It doesn't really interest me. I've kind of gone the opposite direction, but yeah, I think I think it'll be a while before it goes back to any sort of normalcy. I think there'll be, it could be years. Who knows? I'm not very optimistic at this point. Just because I think we're a long ways off, and I think there's a lot of people who just don't even think vaccination is even it's gonna be a hard time to get 75 to 85% of the people vaccinated. And by then it'll probably mutate as it already has, and whether or not that'll be effective, and
totally.
and then we'll be right back at square one. That's really how I think they've got to really become more creative about how they give money and how they look at trying to create the change that we want. We all want to go back to normal, but I think just handing out money is not going to fix the problem. That incentivize people to get tired. I was just thinking about this.
Are you kidding? When I get my $600, I'm set. I'm done.
Yeah,
I'm going to Cabo.
they know if you can get 75% of the people. This was in the New York Times, I think. If you can get 75% of the people to get tested every 4 days, the virus will disappear.
Yeah.
So why don't you incentivize people to get tested every 4 days? If you get tested, you get $125, $200.
Yeah, I paid $125 to go get tested the other day.
You paid?
Yeah, in Albuquerque or in New Mexico, it is not free. I had to pay a private company to do it. I had a friend who was, had been on a backpacking trip for weeks and wanted to hang out for a little bit. But, just to be safe, I didn't want to give them the virus. They didn't want to give us the virus. So before we hung out, we all, quarantined and took tests. And, it was $160 to hang out for a couple of days.
That's just criminal. I mean, here in Madison, it's free. You can go anytime you want, and there's several places, and they need to make testing more available. And I think there's a lot more creative ways that they could, if they could make testing more available and incentivize people to do it, you're going to see that virus disappear. I think.
Yeah. So the crazy part about it to me is that, like, okay, I can afford $170 or $60, whatever, to go do something. But then, like, I had to go throw some things out at the dump, right? Like, I wear a mask and I'm 100 feet away from everybody else. But there's this line to the methadone clinic, and that line is, 40, 50 people long. And, it just, all people, like, some people wearing masks, everybody 2 or 3 feet apart, like the most vulnerable people, right? Who, even just for selfish reasons, like they're going to give me the virus at some point. Like they cannot, if you're there, you cannot afford $160 to get tested. Certainly not every 4 weeks or 4 days, And it's like,
right. Hey, Ethan, sorry to interrupt. I got to jump off. I've got someone here at my house that's doing a little work on the house. So.
Okay. Hey, Eric, thanks for showing up last minute. It was good to talk
Yeah.
to you. Good to see you. We should catch
Yeah.
up again
Thanks,
soon.
Eric.
Yeah. Take care, man. Nice to
All
meet
right.
you too.
Bye, guys.
Cheers, dude. Take it easy.
I'm almost at lunchtime as well. I'm actually past lunchtime, but
Cool, dude.
Laura
Yeah,
can
I
wait.
need to go and do some food and feed the dog.
Cool. I have peeled
Yeah,
and
dude.
scraped almost a box of these. Thank you for keeping me company.
No
This is
worries,
fun. We
bro.
should do this again with Dave. And I did not even get to catch up on like what you guys have been daydreaming about in terms of other wacky projects together when this is all over.
I don't. Yeah, we don't have much in the pipeline, to be honest. COVID kind of kicked the ass out
Yeah.
of everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's basically why I've been spending a lot of time in caves and off coastlines by myself.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. Cool. Well, hey, this was fun. I hope it was cool to meet Eric.
Yeah, it was really useful, and maybe something will come of it as well. So yeah, it's been really good to sort of, I guess, consolidate what I was thinking as well. So yeah, it's all good, man, and I really appreciate it.
Cool. All right. Well, go get some dinner. Put a steak on that eye.
Yeah, maybe you should have filled Eric in before about
Yeah.
who he was speaking to.
This is my soccer
Who's this
hooligan
dude?
friend. Yeah. He's cool.
Yeah. Oh, dude. All right then. Well, hope everything goes well for you, mate. And yeah, I'll be in touch. But if we don't speak before Christmas, happy Christmas.
Merry
Have a good
Christmas.
New Year. And but yeah, I'm sure we will speak.
Okay. See you later, Simon. Bye-bye.
Okay, dude. Take it easy.